So I have some notes about some of this stuff.
I'm dying to hear it.
All right. So let's just look and let's compare Texas to the rest of the SEC, because you mentioned you went over some of the notes from your Sunday column. And I was like, okay, well, what is it like? I'm like, all right, that's a nice article from Anwar, but what does that even mean? Right? What does the stability mean? We know, because you can close your eyes and you can say, well, the development of the players has looked kind of good, right? They're every year they go from a recruiting class where it's like they're having to supplement it with these transfer guys that are kind of like mid, right? These kind of the Ray Thorntons, the Devin Richardsons, and the Ajay Halls and the Jaleel Billingsleys and these kinds of dudes, right? Then you take a step up to maybe the types like the Diamante Tucker Dorsey and Trill Carter and this type of player. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now you're getting to the guys where, they have to tell Trill Carter to get out of here because, they're bringing in a defensive lineman like Savea, and they're bringing in wide receivers like, Isaiah Bond and Silas Bold and Matthew Gold and all the, tight ends. Like, take the difference. Like, just look at the difference between Jaleel Billingsley and Amari Nyblack, right? It's a lot different, right? So you could tell that there's been natural growth through the roster to allow for these additional pieces to get brought in. You're not scraping, like you're not grasping at straws to be able to just, flex tape, like the old flex tape on the old commercial, right? Against the, that big tub they slap the flex tape on more on the infomercials. You're not having to plug all those kinds of holes. But does it help you win? Is it unusual to be able to have your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your special teams coach? And I didn't even go to the fact of saying your strength and conditioning coach, but but let's just say your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coach. Okay. So in the SEC this year, we know that Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, right? Texas A&M with Mike Elko, and Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby. Those guys are all bringing in new head coaches, right? So there's like any continuity that they had is now over. They're starting anew. It's like whatever happens with them happens, okay? But we can look at the rest of them. So let's look at Georgia. So Georgia, Kirby Smart, he's been there for 8 seasons. The offensive coordinator is Mike Bobo. He's been there for 1 season. The defensive coordinator is Glenn Schumann. He's been there for 5 seasons, but he was only a co-DC from 2019 to 2022. So I think with the code, I think we'll start seeing more of this co-DC stuff on War. Yeah. And tell me what you think about this. Like, I think this is important to the conversation. I think we'll start seeing more of this co-DC stuff because I do feel like that implement for 2 predominant reasons. One, it does feel like if the defensive coordinator moves on, it feels like the continuity is still established because the guy's been the co-DC, for the last few years. And also, these like hiring these guys away is just getting harder and harder and harder, and you have to give them an elevation and title sometimes.
Yeah.
And so whenever you need a defensive line coach and he's one of the best in the nation, he's not just going to take a lateral move unless it's Bo Davis that wants to get home and wants the chance to coach his kid and all the things really have to fall into place. You need to give him a co-DC title. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. But as far as the special teams coach, Scott Cochran, who people will know well from I didn't even know he was the special teams coach at Georgia. Scott Cochran, I remember, as being the super cockamamie, loudmouth Alabama strength and conditioning coach that, people would show on the documentaries and stuff that was just this drill sergeant kind of dude there at Alabama under Saban. The guy who Saban used to call the second most important person in the program. Well, somehow he's not with them. I don't know why he's not with them anymore. He left to pursue other options. So they're going to have Kirk Benedict stepping in as the offensive coordinator. So you basically, as the special teams coach. So you're going to have Kirby Smart. He's been there for 8 seasons. So great stability there with them, but he's had an offensive coordinator there for a year. He's had good stability for, for 2 seasons with his defensive coordinator in a full defensive coordinator role. And he's going to be breaking in a special teams coach, and that's Georgia. And that's one of the more stable ones. What do you think of that about that co-DC, co-offensive coordinator conspiracy theory that I have?
Well, I think you gotta do a couple of things. One, I think co-defensive coordinator allows you to pay a guy a little bit more to make sure that they don't just jump down to some small school. If all things are equal and I'm paying you $1 million and some, whatever small school offers you about the same, you can say to yourself, like, you can be picky and choosy. right? As far as where you're going to go, are you going to go to that, Texas State-ish kind of thing, or are you just going to say, you know what, my life is good here. I'm making 1 point, whatever. So I think that helps as well. It helps for the elevation portion of it, because regardless, you still have it on your resume. So if you're still looking to be the DC somewhere, you can at least say I'm a co-DC, looking to be a head coach somewhere. At least you can say I have those things, and I think people will be forgiving of those things. And so I think those things help. I think there are some, you got to reward guys a little bit. And I don't think you just have the days of just, hell, you got co-DCs, you got run game coordinators, you got passing game coordinators. Like there's a lot of different titles that people are getting thrown on them just to say, like, I'm some sort of something important. So
executive head coach, associate head coach.
Yes.
There's a million what does it mean?
There's all time. Oh, I'm sure. Yes, this what he just came through 5 different titles that. When there's at the end of the day, one guy's calling the plays on offense and one guy's calling the plays on defense, and we all know that. But give a guy a title, makes it feel a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. So would you agree that Texas 3 years of Sark, 3 years of 3 years of every coach, right? 3 years of every coordinator, more stability than Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. Kentucky. Stoops has been there 11 seasons. They have a new offensive coordinator entering his first season this year. Their defensive coordinator is Brad White. He's been there 5 seasons. And then former Longhorns and coach and Longhorns player, Jay Boulware. He's been the running backs and special teams coordinator for 1 season. So Mark Stoops 11, OC coming into 0. Okay. DC 5 seasons, Jay Boulware 1 season. Do you have any favorite Jay Boulware moments from
No. I think I remember seeing him at Red River at some point. I don't remember why, and that's about it.
I remember him from just one of those breakout availabilities, and I don't remember anything about what he said either. But yeah, former Longhorn. I think he was diagnosed with some kind of maybe I don't know. I don't even want to say it. I thought he might have had one of those things where he had a medical condition where he had to quit football or something and went into coaching as a GA. We can look into that. I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong on that. But did you think that Kentucky has more stability than Texas?
You said Brad White has been to DC for 5 seasons.
Yes, Stoops 11 seasons. OC Bush Hamden is entering his first season. And Boulware, special teams coordinator, has been there for 1 season.
Yeah, no. Okay. I mean, you basically only got one guy who's been there for 5 seasons. Everybody else is in year 1.
Okay, let's do Vanderbilt. Okay, Clark Lee, he's been head coach for 3 seasons. Okay, he's now having to do the thing where he has to be defensive coordinator. Okay, he's had 2 straight seasons of defensive coordinator firings / defections. So, I'm not sure we even need to talk about Vanderbilt. Like, let's see. There's a dude named Tim Beck who's not the Texas former offensive coordinator Tim Beck. It's a different Tim Beck. He's from New Mexico State. He's coming in there with the transfer quarterback Diego Pavia, and it'll be his first season in 2024. They have a special teams coordinator entering his first season in 2024. Yeah. Not much stability at old Vandy, huh? Feels like Clark Lee might get fired.
Yeah, that guy is. He's a dead man walking. I mean, that's just, it just is what it is. I think they thought about firing him after the season, and they decided to, when they have to issue a release to say we're going to keep you around. And I think one of the things with him, if I'm correct, Alex, I think he is taking over as like defensive coordinator this year as well. If I'm correct,
Clark, yeah. he just keeps firing him. He's like, all right, I'll just do it.
So yeah, I think that's going to be it. If I'm correct, is it that correct? Am I correct about that, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's. I don't know if he's. I mean, he's taking. There's no defensive coordinator, and he's taking over defensive play caller duty. So I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Okay. So South Carolina, that's Shane Beamer. He's been there 3 seasons. So
that's my guy, by the way.
Really? Okay.
I like Shane. That's my guy.
His offensive coordinator is Doyle Loggins, who was the coordinator under Matt Nagy's failed tenure in Tennessee or in Chicago, but he came over from Tennessee working with. I think he worked underneath Arthur Smith at some point when Arthur Smith was still offensive coordinator at Tennessee. But he is so he's been there for one season. They have this defensive coordinator, Clayton White, who came in with Shane Beamer. So they've had the defensive coordinator stability the whole time. Okay. One season of Doyle Loggins, and then Joe DeCamillis, who was on Clark's staff last year as a special assistant to the head coach. He's entering his first season as Gamecocks special teams coordinator. So it's not the stability of Texas.
No,
right?
No. Okay, can I tell you why I like Shane Beamer?
Yeah.
Because I think it was like one of the I think it was like a SEC media day two years ago, not last year, but I think it was 2 years. I guess everyone knows what 2 years ago. And I went and asked him a question, and I stood up and asked him a question, and he had told me that he remembered me from the stuff that I wrote over at Orange Bloods, and he said like he appreciated all the good work I'd done and the reporting that I did, even though he was at Oklahoma. But he said he appreciated that. And that was kind of like, wow, well, what a nice guy. And ever since then, I've liked him. That's literally all it is that he says something nice to me, and then I've liked him ever since. I've ignored everything. I've ignored his OU past. Literally, that's it.
You know the way to Anwar's heart, man. Just compliment the dude.
Like, that's the main reason why I love Joey McGuire. I love Joey McGuire because Joey McGuire came to me at a Texas Tech game. This is it. Hey, all you coaches out there, all you got to do is just compliment me. He came to me at a Texas Tech game before the game. He saw me there. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? Hey, man, I love all the stuff you've been doing throughout the years. Loved your writing, man. Keep up the good work. And I was like, I love Joey McGuire. That was it.
That's easy. Easy, yeah, and for them from there, and they say that was too easy, man. Now I get this dude to throw me meatballs for the rest of my life, right? Okay, Tennessee. All right, so Tennessee. Josh Heupel been there 3 seasons. So Joey Housley was promoted to offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach. He was promoted last year, so he's had 1 year in the role. Tim Banks has been defensive coordinator for 2 seasons. Special teams coordinator Mike Eckler has been there for the full 3 seasons. So it's Heupel for 3 seasons, OC for 2 seasons, OC for 1 season, DC for 2 seasons, special teams coordinator for 3 seasons. It is in Texas.
It's closer than most of the others. It's closer than most of the others.
But Texas is 3-3-3-3. These guys are 3-1-2-3. It's just it's not the stability of Texas.
No, closer though.
Do you remember what Josh Heupel looked like whenever he was a quarterback at Oklahoma versus the way he looks now?
No.
Look him up. Just can you?
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, right just now. Look up Heupel, Oklahoma quarterback, and then type in Heupel, Tennessee head coach.
Woo! It just came up right there. Wow.
Okay.
Life comes at you fast, baby. Hey, that's a guy who started making some money, and he just started living a good life, man.
All right. Let me ask you this one. LSU, Brian Kelly. Okay, head coach 2 seasons.
Okay.
Offensive coordinator in his first season. Defensive coordinator in his first season. Oh gosh. Special teams / tight ends coach coming into his first. It's been a complete turnover there. That's
he fired his DC. Did he fire his DC?
Yeah, lost. Yeah. No. I think the DC didn't the DC leave to go back to I think he left to go back to Notre Dame, and would rather have that job.
Okay, I thought he had to make some changes, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh wait. Matt House was fired at DC. Yes. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It was the offensive coordinator, I believe, that went back to Notre Dame, Mike Denbrock. You can let me just make that sure.
Hold on. LSU coach fired defensive coordinator Matt House and 3 other defensive assistants. Yeah. That was on January 3rd, 2024.
Yeah, and so the new DC is going to be Blake Baker. Blake Baker, who's actually a GA at Texas under Manny Diaz. but anyway, he was. I think he was at Missouri before, but yeah. As far as I think that he only fired one, and I think one of them left. But regardless, it's like they're all new this year. No, no continuity. Missouri.
If you got to fire your defensive coordinator after 2 seasons, you've done something wrong.
It's to get it. Well, it's like, man, Onward. It's like, don't you think it's kind of like it's your first. It's your. I've always said it's your first get out of jail free card, right? And maybe your only one, because what you're doing is everybody knows what that move is. The move of firing a coordinator and stuff is scapegoating them into being the cause of the problems with whatever went wrong with the season last year. You know,
Sure.
and if and here's the thing: the buck stops with you. You're the head coach. You made that hire. You know, it's like it's never a good thing to have to fire a coordinator.
The problem that LSU has, Alex, is that they don't have a boatload of money to just fire Brian Kelly after that contract that they gave him. Like this is a university that not too long ago people were saying, like, man, they may not have enough money to keep their doors open. So you're talking about eating $100 million from Brian Kelly, like that. I think he can fire a couple of more coordinators because I don't think they got the money, Alex, to just let that thing go and write that check.
Yeah, man. So Missouri, you've had Drinkwitz there for 3 seasons. Their offensive coordinator's been there for 1 season. They're having to get a new defensive coordinator. So their defensive coordinator's there at 0 seasons. First season last year for their special teams coach. It's like, dude, nobody stays for 3 years together. No. It's like dog years, dude. It's crazy. Florida, Billy Napier, he's been there for 2 seasons. He might be relinquishing play calling duty. He's been so bad. So
he's going to relinquish his job soon, let alone play calling duty.
What is that, Omar? You're a Florida man. What is that? Like, why can't, like, what's going so wrong with Florida? Like, I remember growing up, there's the Gator Chomp, and you go to the swamp, and I mean, they've been down bad, man. Is this sort of how people felt about Texas when Texas was down so bad, you know, immediately after Mac Brown? It feels like Florida's sort of been down bad, man, for a little bit longer.
And what's crazy is, Alex, I mean, they're not recruiting horribly, but they're not recruiting on an elite level that you would expect the University of Florida to be recruiting at. That's another one of these programs, Alex, that doesn't do a great job of they don't do a great job of retaining stuff in state. They recruit a lot of out of state, and Billy Napier, he just look, Alabama, Georgia, they've got a stranglehold on it, and Florida just has fallen behind in the times, and so Tim Tebow, Alex, that's a long time ago, man. Like
I know, yeah.
That's a when it comes to today's kids, they know Tim Tebow as like a pastor and a guy on ESPN, like, but they don't necessarily remember what we remember watching him.
That's crazy, huh? That's it's wild, man. But Florida, like being there from Florida, not to diss your alma mater, USF.
USF is right over there, right there.
Is Florida State? Is that was Florida always considered kind of the preeminent spot?
Yeah, they had. I would say both of those were probably 1 and 2. I think Florida State was a hot for a while with the Charlie Wards of the world, and they had a good quarterback run for a minute. They had a Peter Warwick for a second as well. I think both of those programs were pretty hot for a while, to be quite honest with you. So I don't know if there was one that was better than another.
Dude, let me just say that as far as I mean, he's had 4 defensive coordinators in 2 years. It's just like, come on. So Arkansas, they have Petrino coming in. It's his first season. It's only his second season for the only 1 season in the books for the defensive coordinator. Auburn, Hugh Freeze has been there for 1 season. Did he fight both? So both his offensive and his defensive coordinator are both gone. So they have a cockamamie off-field setup with their special teams coach. He's not even an on-field coach. He's been there 2 seasons. So no stability there. The closest one, like Cody was saying, might be Ole Miss. So Lane Kiffin's been there for 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. Charlie Weiss Jr. has been the co-OC for 2 seasons. They're losing one of their co-OCs this year. So that's another one of these kind of, is that stable, co-OC to OC? I guess we can kind of say it. the Pete Golding, who used to be at Alabama and always be the focus of these Texas coaching searches that we would cover, right?
Mhm.
He's been the Ole Miss defensive coordinator for 1 season, and special teams coach Jake Schoonover's been there for 2 seasons. So it's like I don't even think it's that close. Venables has been there at Oklahoma for 2 seasons. He has a first-year offensive coordinator. He fired his defensive coordinator. Now they have a couple co-DCs that are going to come up now, but it's more this co-DC nonsense. They've lost their special teams coach this year. I don't even know who their new special teams coach is. Their special teams coach left for Alabama. So it's like, dude, we just went through the whole SEC.
Yeah.
It's like that 3 years together with your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coach. It's in dog years, man. It's in like even something more than dog years. It's in like fish years. Like, it's just it's unheard of. And like Ketchum was saying yesterday in response to my column, he was saying, like, would you be that surprised to see them all kind of stick through their contracts? How interested are these guys in head coaching jobs? Like, I don't really know.
I mean, if you're Pete K, you're making about $2 million a year. I mean, you know, like at that point, what are you leaving for? Like, how you have to have a really, really outstanding offer. You know, Kyle Flood, you know, he's been a head coach before, right? So it's going to take something really to move the needle. Like, I don't think Kyle Flood is at that position where he's so desperate to take anything that moves because I'll take whatever. Like, Florida Atlantic comes open, I'll take it because I just want to be a head coach somewhere. I don't think that's Kyle Flood's MO at this moment. He's like, hey, I'm making about two a year at this point, so why should I need to budge? You know, and I think Jeff Banks, you know, if you're Jeff Banks, you know, as long as Steve Sarkisian is employed, you're employed. Like, and you know you're good at what you do. So if you get a head coaching position, so be it. But if you're Jeff Banks, like, you can sit back and chill. So to your point, like, I don't know how many guys are just eager to get out of here and tell themselves, like, I've got to be a head coach. I feel like these are kind of older, smarter guys who would really be really selective about where they go and when they go. And I think that's a benefit for Sarkisian as far as having that cohesiveness because he knows these guys are going to be here. But more importantly, Alex, I think it shows that if you're Sark, at least you can check the box and say, you know what? I got my hires correct. Because all these guys are basically admitting my hires, my original hires, the thing that I put in front of the world, man, I screwed that up. I screwed that up. And he's like,
first admission of guilt, right? It's the first admission of guilt. It's like, it's the thing saying, you know, you're scapegoating a coach for something that happened on behalf of the whole entire team. But the inherent fact is you had the blank check to go get whoever you wanted out there in the open job market. And you brought this dude in and he failed. And that's the first check against you.